Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pradajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Mustapha Mansa Paribhajagacharya Sakharishya Smadhati Dham Saraswati Goswami Bhagavati Jaya Nanda Kodi Vaishnavati Jaya Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Jaya Name Sutta Hosi Krishna Krishna Pramistana Sri Advaita Radha Shivacharya Gaur Lakshmi Jaya Sri Radha Krishna Bhogavna Sankand Radha Kundagiri Jaya Vrindavan Dham Ki Jaya नवदीप धाम की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय द्वारका धाम की जय स्वामी भक्तवृंद की जय और ग्लोरी टू और ग्लोरी टू थैंक यू वेरी मच
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam on Hare Krishna Africa platform for today, the 9th of February 2024. We welcome you to today's Srimad Bhagavatam. We are fortunate today. We are having our dear senior God brother, His Grace Ganga Prasad Prabhu, will be speaking to us all the way from the land of Songwater in Lagos, Ogun State, Nigeria. Ganga Prasad Prabhu, you're welcome.
Hare Krishna, Pranamastu.
We are very privileged to have you. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
The privilege is mine, not yours. I'm the beneficiary.
Thank you very much. So without much ado, and I'm sure by the time we get into the reading of the text, devotees will start coming in. So if you are ready, I'll put the verse on the screen and we can start.
Ready. Om Agyan Tirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshro Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Radhana Swami Iti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Sri Chaitanya Nanovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaisnavam Syam Shri Rupam Sagrajatan Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanambayo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Shadisi Gora Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narautamam Devin Saraswati Vyasa Chaturdaya Mudirayet Nasta Priya Swabrade Sunityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Nastiki. I'd like to formally welcome everybody present in attendance for today's session, and I beg for all your blessings and favorable disposition that I may be able to do due diligence to this service for my purification and for the benefit of the audience. Hare Krishna. We'll be taking our reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 8, question by King Parikshit. And we are dealing with, attending to text number 21 today. 2821. Hare Krishna. Samplava Savabhutanam Vikrama Pratisankrama Isaputasya Kamyanam Trivagasya Chayovidi Samplava Savabhutanam Vikrama Pratisankrama Isaputasya Kamyanam Trivagasya Chayovidi Samplava Savabhutanam Vikrama Pratisankrama Istaputasya Kamyanam Trivagasya Chayo Vidi. Word for word transliteration. Samplava, the perfect means or complete devastation. Sarvabhutanam, of all living beings. Vikramaha, specific power of or situation. Pratisankrama, ultimate destruction. Ishta, performance of Vedic rituals. Bhutasya, pious acts in terms of religion. Kamyanam, rituals for economic development. Trivagasya, the three means of religion, economic development and sense gratification. Cha, also, Yaha, whatsoever. Vidi, procedures. Translation and explanation. By His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ho. Please explain unto me how the living beings are generated, how they are maintained, and how they are annihilated. Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service unto the Lord. What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions of supplementary Vedic rites? And what are the procedures of religion, economic development, and sense gratification? Purport by His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samplavaha, in the sense of perfect, means is employed to denote the discharging of devotional service. And Pratisamplava means just the opposite, or that which destroys the progress of devotional service. One who is firmly situated in the devotional service of the Lord can very easily execute the functions of conditional life. Living the conditional life is just like playing or plying a boat in the middle of the ocean. One is completely at the mercy of the ocean. And at every moment, there is every chance of being drowned in the ocean by slight agitation. If the atmosphere is all right, the boat can ply very easily. Undoubtedly, but if there is some storm, fog, wind, or cloud, there is every possibility of being drowned in the ocean. No one can control the whims of the ocean. However, one may be materially well equipped. One who has crossed the ocean by ship may have sufficient experience of such dependence upon the mercy of the ocean. But one can fly over the ocean of material existence by the grace of the Lord very easily, without any fear of storm or fog. It all depends on the will of the Lord. No one can help if there is some unfortunate danger in the state of conditional life. Therefore, the devotees of the Lord, however, cross the ocean of material existence without anxiety because a pure devotee is always protected by the Lord. Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 13. The Lord gives specific or special attention to his devotees in their activities within material conditional life. Therefore, everyone should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and be a pure devotee of the Lord by all means. One should know, therefore, from the expert spiritual master the advantages and disadvantages of devotional service. Just as Mahat Parikit asked his spiritual master, Slasukadev Goswami, according to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, one should not eat more than what he requires to maintain body and soul together. Vegetable diets and milk are sufficient for maintenance of the human body. And therefore, one has no need to eat anything more to satisfy the palate. One should also not accumulate money to become puffed up in the material world. One should earn his livelihood easily and honestly, for it is better to become a coolie for an honest livelihood than to become a great man in society by hook and crook. There is no harm in one if one becomes the richest man in the world by honest dealings, but one should not sacrifice the honest means of livelihood simply to accumulate wealth. Such an endeavor is harmful to devotional service. One should not talk nonsense. A devotee's business is to earn the favor of the Lord. Therefore, a devotee should always glorify the Lord in his wonderful creation. A devotee should not decry the creation of the Lord, define him by saying that he has created a false world. The world is not false. Factually, we have to make so many things from the world for our maintenance. So we can say that the world is, we can say that the world is false. Similarly, how can one think of the Lord as being without form? How can one become formless and at the same time have all intelligence and consciousness, direct and indirect? So there are many things a pure devotee to learn, and he should learn them perfectly from bona fide personality like Sukadev Goswami. The favorable condition for discharging devotional service are that one should be very enthusiastic in serving the Lord. The Lord, in his Psalm of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wanted the court of devotional service to the Lord to be preached all over the world, in every nook and corner. Therefore, a pure devotee's duty is to discharge this order as far as possible. Every devotee should be very enthusiastic, not only in performing his daily rituals of devotional service, but in trying to preach the cult peacefully by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. If he is not superficially successful in such an attempt, he should not be deterred from the discharge of his duty. Success or failure has no meaning for a pure devotee because he is a soldier in the field. Preaching the call of devotional service is something like declaring war against materialistic life. There are different kinds of materialists, such as the fruitive workers, the mental speculators, the mystic jugglers, and so many others. All of them are against the existence of Godhead. They should declare that they are themselves God, although in every step and in every action, they are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, a pure devotee may not associate with such gangs of atheists. A strong devotee of the Lord will not be misled by such atheistic propaganda of the non-devotees, but a devotee should be very cautious about them. A devotee should see to the right discharge of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master and should not stick only to the formalities. Under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one should see how much service is being executed and not simply a matter of rituals. A devotee should not hanker after anything, but he should be satisfied with things that may automatically come to him by the will of the Lord. That should be the principle of a devotional life. And all these principles are easily learned under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master like Sukadev Goswami. Maharaj Pariksit inquired from Sukadev correctly, and one should follow his example. Maharaj Pariksit inquired about the process of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world, the process of Vedic rituals, and the method of executing pious activities in terms of supplementary Vedas like the Puranas and Mahabharats. As explained before, the Mahabharata is the history of ancient India, and so also are the Puranas. Pious acts are prescribed in the supplementary Vedas, Smritis, which specifically mention digging tanks and wells for the water supply of the people in general, to plant trees on the public roads, to construct public temples and places of worship of God, to establish places of charity where the poor, destitute can be provided with food stuff, and similar activities are called purta. Similarly, the process of fulfilling the natural desire of sense gratification was also inquired about by the king for the benefit of all concerned. Mukang karoti wa chalam, pangam langa yate girim, ya kripatwa mahamande, shi guru rinatarinam, ya kripatwa mahamande, Paramananda Madhava, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Ishvara, Hare Krishna. Obeisances to the great devotees who are present, Ishvara Prabhu, Shriman Vahara Prabhu, Sahadev Prabhu, Hare Krishna Africa, Salika Prabhu, and all the great Matajis who have assembled here. Thank you for your blessings and benediction. The chapter we are reading is a continuation from the very first chapter of the second canto that spanned from the first canto, Mahapariksit being caused, Mahapariksit encountering Sukadev Goswami, and Mahapariksit placing questions before Sukadev Goswami. The chapter we are in actually is titled Question by King Pariksit. In this very text, text 21 of chapter 8, it is just simply put that Maharaj Parikit's question here, if you look at it very technically, he asked questions that establish the philosophical basis of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole of Srimad Bhagavatam is in this question, this text 21. So if you say he asks about the totality of Srimad Bhagavatam, it means that Pariksit Maharaj asked questions that establish the philosophical basis of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadev then revealed the Chatusloki, which the Lord originally spoke to Lord Brahma. From these 4 verses expand the 10 subjects of the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the Bhagavatam verses. So inside the Bhagavatam, you have the 10 subjects of Srimad Bhagavatam, which begins with Saga, creation of the ingredients of the universe by Mahavishnu, who creates the elements, senses, sense objects, the mind, and the demigods. Then Visaga, sub-creation, which is conducted by Lord Brahma. After interaction of the ingredients created by Mahavishnu, Lord Brahma creates. Sthana or Sthiti, maintaining the planetary systems, the right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord. Poshana, protection of the devotees. The Lord incarnates to encourage and protect his devotees in material world. 5. OT, the creative impetus. For the conditioned soul, the desire for fruitive action is the impetus. 6. Manvantara, the reign of Manus. The Manus give the right direction, Saddharma, how to go back to Godhead. 6. Isanuka, Ta, the science of God, the account of the activities of the Lord's incarnation and great devotees. 8. Niroda, annihilation. When the cosmic devastation occurs, the Nitya bodily entities merge into Mahavishnu along with their conditioned nature. 9. Mukti, liberation. The permanent situation of the form of the Nitya Siddha living entities after they have given up their changeable gross and subtle material body. Number 10, Ashraya. The summum bonum, the absence and destroyer of the creation. Throughout the Bhagavatam, the conclusion is established that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of all incarnation. So we take from the opening text, Parikit asks these questions, and if you completely comprehend them or make them precise, you see that the question spans about how living beings are generated, that is creation. How are they generated? How did the material creation come to be? How they are maintained and how they are annihilated. So you cannot take it away from these 10 subjects matter. What he said is that by this question, he prepared for the real subject of Bhagavatam to be spoken. And if you see when the Bhagavatam is explained to describe the various features of the Lord, the first and second canto were kind of omitted. Not they're omitted, but then they are given specific designation. And when it was explained, say canto 1 and 2 is to create the adhikar, the qualification for being able to comprehend the subsequent cantos and the forms of the Lord that they represent. So until this point, Maharaj have been able to express qualification of one who has the capacity to hear Bhagavatam. So this question is just like tearing the rubber, tearing open what is to be discussed. And you can see that these questions, they are not asked for the first time. Just like Bhagavatam is not spoken for the first time, they have been asked again and again. But then the interesting thing when he said about the source of emancipation for the living entities, Samplava, the perfect means to get out is devotional service. When the sages of Nemi Saranya asked Sukadev Goswami, he asked him of what is of ultimate benefit to humanity at large. Ultimate benefit. And he answers, Sava Punsa Parodama, Yato Bhakti Adoksaja, Haitukia Pratyata. He has superseded that the supreme occupation is that by which men can cultivate loving devotional service. And here in the purport, you find out that it's mentioned what are the things that are favorable for this devotional service. Perfect means is employed to denote the discharging of devotional service. And pratisampla vaha means just the opposite, that which destroys the progress of devotional service. And in the course of the purport, Prabhupada gave us a clue in what Rupa Goswami mentioned in Upadishamrita, text number 2 and 3. Text number 3 mentions what are the things that are favorable for the discharge of devotional service. And in the purport, Prabhupada mentioned it. I mentioned an enthusiasm. So Rupa Goswami mentioned there are 6 principles favorable for execution of devotional service. And he starts by saying being enthusiastic, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, acting according to the regulative principles such as Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. And number 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees, and 6, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Said, these 6 principles undoubtedly assure complete success of pure devotional service. So when he says samplava, means perfect means. These are the perfect means to execute devotional service. And then pratisamplava, the opposite, that which destroys devotional service, is text number 2. Tihara prayasasya prajapo niyamagarha janasanga chalolimcha sabi bhakti vinasyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when it becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, with endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of making spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Number 5, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness and being greedy for mundane achievements. So if you look at the opening of the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, the moment Krishna took charge and started to instruct Arjuna, these were the first philosophical pronouncement he made to Arjuna about disassociating with emotions, filial relationship, and attachments, up them down. But then you will still act because you are configured or you are made to function. But then you have to function based on scriptural codes and under the tutelage of a bona fide spiritual ones. And since Arjuna have accepted Krishna as the guru, Krishna now starts dispensing of what is required. And so Prabhupada mentioned at the opening of the purport that one is completely at the mercy of the ocean. Material life also, we are helplessly at the mercy of nature. So when Krishna said, Prakriti Kriyamanani Guna Kamani Savasaha Ahankara Vimudatma Kataham Itimanyati, that the bewildered conditionally he thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually conducted by the modes of material nature. And further, Krishna said, Devi Sabunamai, Mama Maya Duratyaya. It is just difficult to deal with. We say, Mame Vaye Prapadyante Maya etam tarantite. But one who surrenders unto me, he can cross easily. So you see how Prabhupada put it in the purport, that one who has crossed the ocean by ship may have sufficient experience of such dependence upon the mercy of the ocean. If we have been able to come out of the influence of material nature, then we will know how we came about it. But one can apply the ocean of material excellence by the grace of the Lord very easily. How? By obeying, surrender unto me. Sabadama Parityaja, Mame Kam Saranam Braja, Hamtam Sava Papebio, Mokshamisia Imasucha. The grace of the Lord, one can cross easily. That's the word, very easily, without fear of storm or fog. It all depends on the will of the Lord. No one can help if there is some unfortunate danger in the state of conditional life. The devotees of the Lord, however, cross the ocean of materialism without anxiety because a pure devotee is always protected by the Lord. Mahatmanam Tumam Prata Devim Prakriti Asvitaha. the Lord gives special attention to his devotees in the activities within material world, conditional life. Therefore, everyone should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and be a pure devotee of the Lord by all means. This is the injunction. This is the injunction. So there is no gainsaying that we have to become devotee, because when Sanatan Goswami asks Mahaprabhu, Kiyomi, who am I? Everybody call me this, they call me that, they give me this accolade, that accolade. But I don't know who I am. Mahaprabhu mentioned Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishna Nitya Das. We are all eternal servants of Krishna. And so if we are eternal servants of Krishna, this counsel is not wrong. Therefore, everyone should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and be a pure devotee of the Lord by all means. By all means. Very interesting. And the next paragraph, Prabhupada said, one should know, therefore, from an expert spiritual master, the advantages and disadvantages of exercising devotional service, just as my Parikit asks his spiritual master. Krishna himself mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, that vidhi pranipatena pranipasena sevaya padishantite jnana jnanina tattvadashina. You have to approach the representative of Krishna in disciplic succession and inquire submissively from him, render services unto him, the self-realized soul. So the taking shelter of the guru is inevitable. Pradasraya is inevitable. You have to take shelter of the guru, through whom you can get the shelter of Krishna. You cannot get Krishna's shelter easily, because Krishna said, those who think they are my devotees, they are not my devotees. But those who are the devotees of my devotees, they are my devotees. So Sukadev Goswami, the sages of Nemi Saranya, Vidura, Uddhava, Maharaja, Prithu, all showed how to take shelter. Padasraya, take shelter. It is the secret in executing devotional service, because without shelter, we are like ships without a rudder, or like dry leaves left at the mercy of the wind, who can be tossed in any direction, anyhow, anytime. But if we have taken shelter, yes, the storms will come. But if we are guided, we'll be able to overcome the storm. And in the proper assessment, science of devotion gives devotional service, one should not eat more than what is required to maintain the body. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 1, text 9, Krishna, the sages were, the men of this age are but short-lived. They are this, they are that, and Prabhupada in the purport was explaining that the human life is not shortened just because of lack of sufficient food, but because of irregular habits. Irregular habits. So the things we cultivate, the things we live with as habits, are the things that actually affect us more than food. But here, it's just an instruction that our body and soul has to maintain its impurity, but not to make extra strenuous effort. Because what we read in the Padeshamrita is that we're endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to achieve. It saps the very vitality of one, and life is shortened. And it distracts you from pure devotional service. So if you eat not because of the palate, but because you have to keep body and soul together to serve Krishna. Wealth also is required. Everything is actually required, but in moderation. In moderation. And so he said, we should also not accumulate money to become puffed up in the material world. But that is what we find in our society today. Money talks and bullshit work. So everybody is hankering to get as much money as possible. And so here in Nigeria, if you're a Tanzania, you are nobody when it comes to millionaire. And if you're a millionaire, you are nobody when it comes to billionaire. And if you're a billionaire, you don't talk when the trillionaires are talking like that. So money has become like an item of social distinction to discriminate. But that is the admonition that is given, that is mentioned there. Practice samplava, that which will destroy devotion. So we'll make money to show off, to discriminate among others, then it becomes obstacle. And Prabhupada mentioned somewhere, he said, one should earn his livelihood easily and honestly, but it is better they become a coolie. There's a coolie. Coolie is a luggage carrier or a cleaner. It's better to be an honest coolie and earn one livelihood for an honest livelihood than to become a great man in society by hook and crook. There is no harm if one becomes the richest man in the world by honest dealing. No harm. When the Mayavadis are saying, no, money is Maya, Prabhupada said, bring all the money. He explained, I'll grab them because they are useful in the service of Krishna. But he's not grabbing them because he wants to distinguish. In the Siddhartha, it is mentioned, do not compare yourself with others because always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. So just identify where you belong and be content with it and then be able to function from there. But when we start making a wholesome competition or wholesome rivalry, then our devotion will be spoiled or checked. So Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, such an endeavor is harmful to devotional service. Okay, in that sixth point that is Prajapa Niyamaga, Prajapa, one should not talk nonsense. In the purport, Prabhupada is saying, if we are given opportunity to talk, we start talking, and all we will say is nonsense. And he compared to the croaking of a toad or a frog, who is crying or croaking. But in the end, what is he going to achieve? He's inviting snake to come and devour him. So if we are devotees and want to do devotional service, Prabhupada is clear about it. We are begging for Krishna's mercy or favor. The devotee should always glorify the Lord, Satatan Kitayantoman, in his wonderful creation. A devotee should not decry the creation of the Lord, like the Mayavadis or the impersonalists or the Gyanis. Actually, we have to take so many things from the world for our maintenance. So we can say that the world, we cannot say that the world is false. Never. How can one think of the Lord as being without form? Impersonalism. And then we have fun. I was speaking with one Muslim practitioner, I think on Sunday, and I was mentioning if we say Allahu Akbar, and we see that we have fun, but Allah is formless. So who is the greatest in reality? The one who has some or the one who has no form? Or we can marry 4 wives, but Allah has no wife. Then who is the real greatest? He said, obviously, the man with 4 wives is greater. So it's misapplication, it's orientation, and that's what Prabhupada calls us, due to poor fund of knowledge. Due to poor fund of knowledge. So a devotee acknowledges that God is having form. His son is Sachitananda Vigraha, and where his eternal part and parcel, we are to serve him. And then the favorable condition for the starting devotional service, and then one should be enthusiastic, is the Padeshamrita we read earlier. But then Our enthusiasm will not be for capricious adventures. Mahaprabhu's commission, or the Great Commission, Krishna consciousness, is Yare Deka Tarikaha Krishna Padesh. Wherever you go, whomsoever you meet, tell them about Krishna. It is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. That is our real business. And this has to go in every nook and corner. Therefore, a pure devotee's duty is to discharge this order as far as possible. And we are very busy doing this. We will sustain our enthusiasm, and we still have to be concerned about the ritual, but this is of greater importance than all the rites and rituals that we will observe. That's why I said, Prabhupada himself mentioned, for Sankirtan, you can cut down on the deity worship. Everybody go out, distribute books and preach. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself said, break down the building, sell the blocks, use the money to print books. So this is the essence. Books are the basis, preaching is the essence. So, and if he's not superficially successful in such an attempt, he should not be deterred from the discharge of his duty. Success or failure has no meaning for a pure devotee because he's a soldier in the field preaching the call to devotional service. And it's something like declaring war against materialistic life. And you can see that by the volume of our congregation, especially in this part of the world. In India, you can have huge attendance volumes, but if you leave Africa and you go to India, you'll be thinking, oh, is it for real? When you see the crowd in the temple, you go to Krishna Balaram, it's like a stampede. You go to Mayapur, before Gopurima, like the stampede. People are just passed. You can't even stand in front of deities. They process you to just come in, and then as you are coming, you are going out. That's the volume of crowd. But then, why is it so here, this part of the world? Because we are looked at as joy killers. We don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do that, and we don't do this. So all what people want for sense gratification are the major thing we call the 4 pillars of liberation. No meat eating, no gambling. Now there's a cup competition, Cup of African nations going on. And I had one pastor saying, oh, they gamble with the football. People stake huge amount of money. Who will win and who will lose? Okay? In the name of football. And actually, Prabhupada mentioned that football is actually designed for gambling. So who can make stakes, lose and win. It's all going on. And these are the things that we are preaching against. So you can see that where many are going is not where we are. But in the end, we have something that is beneficial for all, just like the sages said, of the absolute good for all humanity. Absolute good. But not everybody thinks like that. Everybody is thinking about I, me, and mine. What do I gain? What is mine in it? Otherwise, they don't care. So we have to do, a pure devotee may not associate with such gangs of atheists. A strong devotee of the Lord will not be misled by such atheistic propaganda of the non-devotee, but a neophyte devotee should be very cautious about them. It's also an admonition. We can see, because of the use of cell phones and many things, many of our devotees are also getting contaminated or polluted by association. Consciously, unconsciously, through phone, they also participate in staking and gambling and all of this, and many other things. As the neophyte devotee should be very wary, careful about this. The neophyte devotee should be very cautious about it. A devotee should see to the right discharge of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master and not stick only to formalities. What are the things to do? And actually, it's mentioned also in that position that a Madhyam Adhikari or Uttama Adhikari, it comes down to the level of a Madhyama for preaching's sake. And his duty or his preoccupation is always thinking, brainstorming, what should be the next approach to give Krishna consciousness out? What should be the next approach? He's just preoccupied with that. So a devotee is preoccupied with that under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. A devotee should not hanker after anything, but he should be satisfied with things that may automatically come to him by the will of the Lord. When he said utility of the principles, as long as you are preaching, Krishna will reciprocate by bringing things. Krishna will send men, Krishna will send material, Krishna will send many things according to Krishna's own design. That should be the principle of devotional life. All these principles are easily learned under the guidance of bona fide spiritual life, Sukadeva Goswami. Maharaj Parikit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami correctly, and one should follow his example, means following the footsteps of previous acharyas. You learn how to surrender, how to submit, how to execute. And in this last purport, the same Maharaj Parikit inquired about the process of creation, maintenance, and destruction of material world, the process of Vedic rituals, and the method of executing pious activity in terms of supplementary Veda, which is the beginning of Kama Yoga. Because Arjuna was refusing to fight, and Krishna told him, fighting is your vana. You have to fight. And if you fight and you are victorious, at least you get your lost kingdom back. That's some gain. That is Purusha Artha, Dharma Artha, Kama Moksha. By doing religiosity, you get some material benefits, economic advancement. And when you have economic advancement, the next thing is that you want sense gratification. But here it's mentioned that, yes, sense gratification is not like we go and find strong acid content and pour on our senses. No, you cannot kill the senses. But you have to attend to the senses by regulation. Under the guidance of a guru, you regulate, accept only what is favorable and reject what is unfavorable. So we do religiosity and then we'll get economic development, but in all, we should aspire for liberation, which is the ultimate goal. Pious acts are prescribed in the supplementary Vedas, which specifically mention digging tanks, well, that is charitable work for humanity, Manaseva, Manav Seva. You do things that benefit humanity. That is also good, but the ultimate thing, all these are good to the extent that ultimately it will bring us to devotional service to the Lord. To plant trees on the public road, to construct temples, to the worship of the Lord, to establish places of charity where the poor destitute can provide them with foodstuff, are similar activities called puta. Similarly, the process of fulfilling the natural desire of sense gratification was also inquired about by the king for the benefit of all concerned. So everybody's interest is there in Bhagavatam. But ultimately, the conclusion is to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and acknowledge ourselves as his eternal servants, and then submit ourselves in totality for the pleasure of Krishna. But when Krishna's senses are pleased, Rishikesha, Rishikena, when the senses of the master of the senses is pleased, automatically our own senses also get aggrandized. And then we'll be peaceful, we'll be happy, and always have the ascension of Krishna. So we started by mentioning that this question is actually like an opening for the discussion of the content of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is when one has acquired sufficient adhika qualification to hear this subject matters. Otherwise, it will be like casting pearls at swines. It will not yield the desired results. But when the qualification is there, then we can be able to understand this subject matter, comprehend them, and be able to preach them and then apply them in our personal application and our preaching application. Then our life becomes sublime. So even though life in itself may be turbulent, like Prabhupada mentioned, one is completely at the mercy of the ocean every moment. Once you come into this material world, you are at the mercy of the modes and material nature, whatever comes. So that is the second Abhideya, the second process, or the first instruction Krishna gave. In 2:13, he gave philosophical understanding about Sankhya of the body and the soul. And in number 14, he said, learn to tolerate. That is application. Learn to tolerate. So the upheavals of material life will always come. At the Atmika, at the Klesha, at the Adhyanika Klesha, at the Bhotika, at the Devika. All this will happen. But he said, when you have Krishna, you learn to tolerate, depending on Krishna in all circumstances. Because we are dependent on Krishna and we are surrendered to Krishna, Krishna will see us through. At least he will give us the enablement to be able to cross over by my grace. That's what he said in chapter 18. You will cross over by my grace, by Krishna's grace. So the subject matter here is of great benefit to all of us. And the model or the methodology of inquiries is already established. That Bhagavatam is question and answer. Somebody asks question and the other person answers. And Prabhupada was saying in how devotees share love. When the one who knows speaks, the one who does not know, he learns. Akyati Prichati is the principle. One who knows speaks, and the one who does not know, he learns from the other man's experience. So this is the setting here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, His Grace, Ganga Prasad Prabhu, for this beautiful class. I was ruminating when I was reading the text, how you are going to approach this test, because like you said, this test is like the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because in one test, 6 questions were asked by Bharat Parikshit. And the whole of the 6 questions covers the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada did a whole lot of justice in the purport. And I was wondering how this can be summarized within the scope of time. And I think you did a very nice job on this. Thank you so much for the sharing of the realization.
You are my inspiration.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu
It's great.
Kusa's hand is up.
Yes, King Kush of Africa.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
We're not joking.
Yeah, we're not joking here. They don't know. They don't know. But I have a question. In the course of your lecture, you mentioned like the African football match they are playing. And Prabhupada said, at the point of death, whatever one remembers, that he will attend. So the last match of Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire, 3 Nigerians have died. Rich men, billionaires.
4.
Yes.
4.
4, yes. So they were watching the ball when they give Nigeria penalty. One in Cote d'Ivoire left the body. He fainted and died on the spot. Abuja, one politician died. 4 people have died, like you said. Me, I only have 3. So my question is based on Prabhupada's philosophy.
One youth couple also died.
So my question is, according to Prabhupada's philosophy,
Not
In their next
Prabhupada,
life, are they going to become the football we play? Are they going to become stadium? What will they become in their next life?
Yes, that's a very good one. But you know what is said in Bhagavad Gita? The intricacies of karma is very, very difficult to understand. It's intricate. I cannot stand here now and tell you, yes, they will become grass in the football pitch, especially now that the pitches are made of artificial grasses.
Yes.
You understand? But then they died of football consciousness. So they and karma will sort themselves out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that beautiful answer. I was discussing the same topic with someone this afternoon, and just before the class, and they was asking same similar question. And I was telling him, I said, well, he said, you guys still talk about a lot about karma and reincarnation. So these people that died as a result of, so what is going to happen? And I was explaining, I said, well, you'll be surprised that some of them died as a result of heart attack because of the bets they have done. Because some of them have put so much money, some of them have staked their house just to, so only one who is in their heart can see what exactly was going on in their head when they got that attack. Thank you very much for that beautiful question, answer to Kusha Prabhu's question. So, Smasha Dave, unmute.
Emeritus.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Emeritus.
much, Prabhuji, for the beautiful class as always. I have two questions, but it is in two parts. And the second part may be necessary depending on the answer to the first part. And the first part to the question is, are there contradictions in our scriptures? That's my first question, Prabhuji.
That is technical, but the technicality is solved in Achinta Veda Veda Tattva. Yes and no. Simultaneously one and different.
Okay, so based on the answer, that gives me room to follow up with my second question. And that is, sometimes we read from the scriptures that Lord Vishnu, as Karana Dakashaya Vishnu, from his transcendental body comes these unlimited universes. And again, sometimes we read from the scriptures that Lord Brahma is the creator of the universe. Now, which is which? Is Lord Brahma the creator of the universe, or Lord Vishnu is the creator of the universe? Because we have both statements made in the scriptures.
Thank you very much. You are not alone. Naradmuni asked Brahma the same question. I can see you are doing japa. But all we know is that you are the creator. Is there somebody else you are venerating that we don't know about? So this is not, Brahma was very honest. He break down the whole sequence to him. So yes, people may think whatever they want, but the reality is that I was facilitated with the ingredients, with the design. I was mentioning that when Brahma sprout out, if you get to the canto of Bhagavatam, where he mentioned that the four Kumaras, they had visited Ananta. Say they came through the water waves of the Ganges to meet Ananta at the basement of the universe. And they were asking him, and he mentioned that when Gabutaka Vishnu had a lotus sprout, he said it was about the what would I call it? with a wave blast of mode of passion that hit his bowel. And that produced the lotus flower that sprouted from his navel. And on top of that navel of Brahma came. So if you look at it very technically, even though Brahma himself was created, but who created Gabodakashai Vishnu? Who created Karanadakashai Vishnu? Okay, so that's why it becomes very interesting when the sages ask, tell us about the Purusha avatars. And in the chapter we are reading also, the same thing has been questioned in the previous chapters. So Brahma was created. It's called the first created being. And so Brahma is a secondary creator. So when we mention about the 10 subjects of Bhagavatam, Saga, creation of the universe, Visaga, sub-creation is how it is depicted. Visaga is the work of Lord Brahma. Secondary creation. Primary creation is done by the Purusha avatars. So there's no contradiction, but the seeming contradiction also can be rectified by hearing from a bona fide authority. Hare Krishna.
Well,
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ganga Prasad Prabhu. Sadif, is that sum up your two questions? It's a follow-up question.
Yeah, very good. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sadif. Any other question?
Yes, please. Yes, Prabhu.
Prema Samputa Prabhu is there. Warm up for the next question.
Yeah,
or comment or correction.
That is smiling is smiling is probing.
No, I'm just
Prabhu Sagwan. Prabhu Sagwan.
Yes, Prabhu, my question is on the issue of Bhagavatam is a question and answer you mentioned.
Yeah.
So if Bhagavatam is a question and answer like Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, why is it that sometimes when we ask questions to a speaker, they get offended around the world? Does it mean that the speaker doesn't know that Bhagavatam is about question and answer? Or they just want to speak and allow everybody to swallow whatever they say? Because Parikshit did not swallow everything Sukadev said. He asked questions. And with happiness, he was answering him. Even though he asked, sometimes he may ask a stupid question, he still answered him. So how come our own, the whole world, many temples, people don't ask question again because they don't want to offend the speaker? So are the speakers really translatally situated to speak on Bhagavatam for being offended when they ask them questions?
Well, I cannot specifically make statements, but I can give reference. There are specific qualifications mentioned in course of the Bhagavatam. What are the qualifications of an ideal speaker? The qualification of an ideal hearer. So when we are able to understand these two, then we'll know what applies at whatever circumstance. But during our Bhakti Sastri and Bhakti Bhagavad training, we are made to know that we don't know everything. And our real honesty is when we encounter such probing circumstances, instead of expressing our passion or emotion, we humbly, like a blade of grass, submit that, I don't know about this. I will find out and I'll revert to you. You see, it keeps a cordial atmosphere, which means we have not become supreme knowers. We also have our limitations. This is a healthy development, but when somebody shouts down somebody, that is not the mood of Bhagavad. That's why I made reference to ideal speaker and ideal hearer. And you can see also when Lord Brahma, or Narad Muni asked Lord Brahma, when Vidura asked Maitreya, they did something very wonderful. They have to make references that Brahma had a conversation with Vishnu or Narayan, and they make reference. They did not answer directly. They got answer from some other discussion. Sukadev Goswami is going to do the same thing after this text. And then Vidura and Maitreya, they did the same thing. You make references. And that is humility of a speaker. He doesn't show himself as a be all and know all, you know? So it is not the right etiquette that we shut people down, and it does not represent our Siddhanta that people will fail to ask questions because they don't want to face a bulldog. You know what I'm saying?
Bulldog. Okay,
Thank you very much, Kush Prabhu, for that beautiful question. And then thank you, His Grace Ganga Prashad Prabhu, for the answer. Prem Samput, deliver.
I think Prabhu Sahadev's hand is there.
Yeah, yours was first, so go ahead.
No, mine is just a sincere appreciation because it's beautiful. Last our elders used to say, in a house where you have an elderly man's pictures over there. I mean, things are worthy. So it's beautiful that I saw how very clinical question Prabhu Sahadev asked Prabhu Ganga. And the question was beautifully answered from the scriptures. And it shows that in a house where we have elders mature enough, they are not just speaking from the scripture, they couple it with practical of years of experience to analyze. And these are some of the differences when a neophyte is speaking. Yeah, because I remember 15 years ago, His Holiness Bhakti Deo Maharaj was giving a lecture in a gathering, and he did mention something like that. You know, when an elderly person is speaking on asam, you know, they package all the experience of years and the question from the script, backed it with the scriptures. And when you see that, it looks like, wow, are they talking to me? You feel the thing is hitting you direct, but you know they're using experience, and I was really grateful for the answer and the question. Just say thank you.
Thank you very much,
Your
Thank you very much for that.
Very, very worthy. Thank you.
Okay, His Grace Sahadev Prabhu.
You are failing on something, Salika Prabhu. You have not added emeritus.
Oh, sorry. Point noted.
Salika Prabhu, please, if you may put the text back on the screen. I have a question for you, please.
Okay.
His Grace Ganga Prashad Prabhu, I have a question, and like I said, it's from the text itself.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
The question Maharaj Parikshit is asking is very interesting. It's quite unfortunate that it's going to take us quite a while to get the answers he's asking from Shukadev, given to us. But he is asking, please explain unto me how the living beings are generated. And I am also interested in understanding how the living beings are generated. Now, we've had this back and forth query whether the living entities are from the spiritual world and the living entities are from this material world. Now, Maharaj Parikshit is asking how the living beings are generated. And yesterday, His Grace Ishwara Prabhu dealt very nicely with the text that talks about 8 mystic cities that individuals may have. And we read from the scriptures how great yogis are even able to create planets. And when they create planets, they also produce living beings living on those planets. Where are those living beings coming from? So generally, when we talk of living beings, how are the living beings generated? This is my highlighted question from Maharaj Parikshit's questions for today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. The first thing we should key to is Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, text number 4. It's an authoritative pronouncement. Sarva yoni sukanteya mutaya sambhavatiya tasam brahma mahadyoni aham bija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material world, and that I am the seed-giving father. It's deep, but came from your question. If Krishna is the seed-giving father, and like the good example we have is Vishwamrita, he created some species of living entities, and those who are Jains don't eat some of these crops because they are secondary or secondary creations, okay, like papaya and other things that Vishwamrita created. Now, they created because, just like what is happening in modern day science, the scientists may prove to us they are inventing, but these things that they are unfolding to us, they already existing. But it's just like they discover it to our knowledge. They are not the one who are manufacturing the content. So if Krishna says, Aham Bija Prabhupita, I'm the seed-giving father. So the yogi who can create, after creating, the ingredients of the creation comes from where? Did they also create the ingredients? And so when you say, where is the origin or the source of the living entities? From Bhagavatam presentation, we are given, like in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, Krishna said there are two natures, the fallible and the infallible. Fallible and infallible. And he said in that chapter 18, but it starts from 16. Dwa ima purusho loke shara chakshara evacha shara savani bhutani kutaswakshara uchate. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. So when he said that Mahavishnu, he cast glance over Prakriti, and then he impregnated her with the jivas, we can learn something from there. Is it the jivas that are in the spiritual world, or the jiva that will have in the material environment? It's a throwback question. So that will give us a key. There are already entities that are meant for this environment. And there are also entities that are meant for the spiritual environment. Okay? So if we preoccupy ourselves by trying to prove, Krishna went further in the next 17. Utama Purusha Twanya, Parapmati Udarita, Yolo Katrayama Visya, Bibatya Muiswara. Beside these two, there is the greatest living entity, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered into the three worlds and is maintaining them. And in 18, it sums up. Yasmak sharam atitoham aksharat apichotama atwasmi loke de vedecha pratita purushotam, because I am transcendental, beyond both fallible and the infallible. And because I'm the greatest, I'm celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the supreme person. So this can give us clue into what the question is. In my own understanding, there are entities that are configured for this environment. They are the ones who have to strive to go to the spiritual world, because the scripture cannot conflict itself that they are not fallible. And the example is given of the case of Hiranyakashipu, Jaya and Vijay. If you study that narration of Jaya and Vijay and how they came here, they actually left their original spiritual body in the spiritual world, and their service was not interrupted, but because they have to come for sporting, they now got a material body that is suitable for them to act here. And ultimately, they went back to take up their spiritual body and continue their service. Their services did not stop for one day. It is Nitya Lila. So it's a deep subject matter, but we cannot, in our own figment of imagination, be able to understand them. But when we encounter teachers or self-realized souls who are clear about this tattva, they'll be able to shed light on it for us. I don't know if that makes any inway into your question.
Emeritus Saade, does it resonate?
Well, I appreciated the answer. Like Prabhuji said, our revered speaker said, it's a very deep topic. And we had been procrastinating on this topic. We would like to do justice to it someday, because as much as I respect Prabhuji's answer, I disagree in some ways, but it cannot be debated, or we cannot go very deeper into it today. We will have to try to create a special time for just this intriguing discussion. So,
Yeah.
but thank you so much for the answer, His Grace Ganga.
Yeah. Thank you too. And what Prabhupada sums up, we can spend thousands of years trying to probe this. But Prabhupada said, why worry when the journey started? He said, just find your way and get out of this place. Get out of here. That's the main thing you should preoccupy yourself with. And if you look at Prabhupada's purport to this very text, Prabhupada mentioned something very clear, that we should do everything possible to become devotees of Lord Krishna.
Thank you very much, His Grace Ganga.
Therefore, everyone should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna and be a pure devotee of the Lord by all means. I think is the end in the last statement in the first paragraph of the purport. Become a pure devotee by all means. If we have all the answers to all the questions, ultimately it should help us to become pure devotees and go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. So, but the discussion continues. Aluta continua.
Thank you very much, His Grace Ganga Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
The subject matter of the soul, Krishna, and his creation are an endless topic. Because Krishna himself said that himself does not even understand fully himself.
Yeah. So that what makes him complete. That's what makes Krishna complete.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, but for the sake of Sriman Vara Shara Prabhu, just a minute, I'll get back to you. I know that this particular topic is a very interesting and topical one, and surely, when I hear discussions on this subject, when I think about it myself, one thing that comes often to my mind is that, just like what you've rightly said, there are certain subject matters that are beyond comprehension until when one gets to the platform of a pure bhakta. So the question I ask myself is, am I a pure devotee now? If I'm not satisfied with the answer, that is, if my answer is not in affirmative, then I take solace in that I'm not able to understand, even though the answer is right in front of me, because I'm not there yet. So let me strive to get there. Is Grace Suman Vara Acharya Prabhu, please kindly unmute and ask your question.
Jai Dandava Pranam, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for your
delivery. Hare Krishna.
Jai, all glories to Prabhupada. Yeah, so something I want to clarify. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, one should understand or know the advantages and the disadvantages of of executing devotional service. Is that what it's written there? What I don't understand is there any disadvantages for executing devotional service?
That is exactly in the text. It's Parashit stating.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's in the text.
Okay.
Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service unto the Lord.
And I think Prabhupada also repeated that in the purpose.
Yeah, in the purport, yes.
Right.
Okay, over to you, Ganga Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you very much. The opening of the purport gives clue to it. Where Papa used the word samplava and practice samplava. Samplava and practice samplava. Samplava, he said, denote discharge of devotional service. And Vipransava means the opposite, not discharging devotional service. In my understanding, which may also not be wholesome, when you don't do devotional service, that's when you experience the disadvantage. If you are doing devotional service, there is only advantage. So there can be no disadvantage in doing the devotional service. But when you don't do devotional service, you are at disadvantage. You can add to it, Prabhu, if you have a contrary.
That's good. That's good. See, the problem sometimes comes from translation. Now, just imagine you're translating this text into another language, and then you can get stuck. So it's a good thing. What you've just said, I think that is how we should understand it. Not doing devotional service is a disadvantage. Okay, so I mean, it's an inference, but if you want to go by the literal text, it's a bit confusing. All right, thank you anyway.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's material languages are incapable of being able to express spiritual subject matter, and this is one of them. That when you try to express spiritual subject matter with a material language, material body, material objects, material, everything material, it becomes incapable of being able to perfectly express the Lord, his pastimes, his activities, and his creation. Thank you very much for bringing the highlight onto that. Sumasa Adi, Prabhu, please unmute.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to chip in this, what Shriman Vara Prabhu just said. Of course, it's in the text, and I think we were saying it's in the purport also, Shri Prabhupada repeated. We talk about, my understanding is, we talk about attachment and detachment, right? Once you have attachment to something, then automatically you have detachment to something else. And so if we are attached to material sense gratification, then we detach ourselves from Krishna. And if we have attachment to Krishna, then we detach ourselves from material sense gratification. And so once we take to devotional service, the disadvantage of that devotional service is that we can no more enjoy our material senses. So it's a disadvantage. To me, that makes sense that, okay, if you take the Krishna consciousness, for example, it is said that one who is very much conscious of death cannot enjoy this material life. In order to enjoy this material life, you should forget about death. And that's why sometimes people ask, why are you this Hare Krishna? You're always talking about death, 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 death. Because we talk about death, it's a reality, it's going to happen whether we like it or not. And how do we prepare for that? And as such, there are so many things we can do materially to be happy that we cannot do. We don't go to the bars, we don't go to discos, we don't go here, we don't do that. So to me, it's a disadvantage. But that disadvantage ultimately is our advantage. That's my approach. That's my understanding.
Thank you very much. That is another angle of vision. And I think Rupa Goswami had this also, that when the gopis, he was saying, if you are still attached to enjoying material opulence and family, don't go near the bank of the Yamuna where that little boy is playing flute, because he will cut all your attachment. But in this very context, devotional service is not sense gratification. And sense gratification is not devotional service. Well, Krishna's sense gratification is both sense gratification for Krishna and for the devotees. So in devotional service, I use the word, that's how I understand it, there can be no disadvantage. But when we are not doing devotional service, we are disadvantaged because that is what we are configured for. We are Jivera Swarupa, we are to serve Krishna. So when we don't do that, we are disadvantaged. That's when I made reference, those two words, Samprava and Pratissamprava, the Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. We have to do it. And not doing is an obstacle. The obstacle is we cannot do devotional service that is there. So Ishwara Prabhu, I don't know if you are here and you can make an in-way contribution to this discussion. Ishwara Prabhu, my Lord and Master.
Yeah. Ishwara Prabhu, I think, I don't know whether I've requested him to unmute, but it is interesting what you're saying, because I was also going to make a contribution in that regard, that the fact is that when Prabhupada said this devotional service is transcendental, it means that it is completely beyond the realm of material dualities. Material dualities of good and bad, top and low, cannot come onto the realm of transcendental subject matter. So therefore, because devotional service is transcendental, there can never be anything like disadvantage. But for the material expression, for material to explain it in an environment of material experience or platform where there is understanding of dualities, so the word advantage and disadvantage comes into place. But thank you very much for your position. I think Ishwara Prabhu is not disposable to speak with us. Ishwara Prabhu, please kindly unmute.
Sorry, this is another question, please. Prabhu, you said in Mayapur, in Vrindavan, during Gopunima, people trunking, and you could hardly have a place to stand. But in this part of the world, it's not the same. And the reason you gave is that people see us as killer of joy, because all of what they need to enjoy life with is what we say, don't do, don't do, don't do. So my question is, those trunks, those people that are trunk into the temple in Mayapur or in Vrindavan, are they really beyond this level of wanting to enjoy those same things that we preach against? Can we say that it's because those crowds have actually come to the point of respecting all those rules? That's why they're enjoying devotional life, in that manner. I don't know. I hope you get my question.
I get every bit of it. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
All right.
If you see in that text number 2, it said, following the rules and the regulation for the sake of following, not for the purpose of making advancement, and neglecting it and acting whimsically. Okay, if you key into that, we can get an answer. That we are joy killers is not only that we kill joy in Africa, it's globally. We kill joy everywhere because the modern trend, the modern postulation, the modern education proper said is all geared towards sense gratification. 1, 1, 2, 2. It's everywhere, not only here. But it has become like part of the Indians. They are not giving the joy killing as their consideration. It's just like in Nectar, you say every morning in Vrindavan, you see people just wake up, they take delight in going to temples, not because they have become sense controlled or anything. It's just like a habit. Go to temples, take darshan, take chanamrita, and move on to 5,000 temples in a day. So it's like routine. But it may not be necessary for making spiritual advancement. But in this part of the world, the way we have been given orientation is that anything that does not resonate with our orientation, we just kiss and say goodbye. You know, people don't make advent because it's not like part of our upbringing, but there is the upbringing, and it's not because they have become sense control. That is clear. Even in India also, they call lost joy killers everywhere in the world. So I don't know.
Fine. That's exactly the point. That's exactly my point. Because this culture is transported into another land, you know. So adapting it to the people there may take some time. But the origin of the culture, wherever the culture is, whether the Arab culture, you find the same people who wake up, do their salat, you know, it's just like a routine, you know. And then in African culture, those who really practice whatever it is, it's also like, you know, routine for them. So that's exactly what I want to say, that it may not be because people are more devotional or spiritual, or they are really following. It's just because it is acculturated. So that is the problem of transporting, you know, of transplanting one culture to another place. So it could be the same, different thing, you know, the same thing in Africa or in Arab country, etc. That's the point.
You're right, Prabhu, but you can also see that even with this kind of acculturation, the Western infiltration into our culture, many of us will not be bold enough to go to the shrines, African shrines, because we have been given indoctrination that, oh, it's evil, it's devilish. You know? But for Indians, on Jamasami, a Muslim observes Jamasami. They know it's Jamasami. It's a public holiday. Everybody observes it. But supposing they say that it's an anniversary of Shango, is it every one of us that will queuing? So this is the level of damage that has been done in our society. Indians are acting like their geographical environment. Can we make bold to do the same thing?
Yeah, I'll go.
That
Thank
is
you,
you,
Mary.
but
Thank you.
but let us take the statistics of how many people will conform. You know, because in reality, for me, I am not doing Krishna consciousness because it is alien. From my background, my grandfather is a white robe chief, Eze. And in the Eze tradition, the Eze does not eat outside. The Eze has a confinement where food is cooked, and he cannot eat unless he has seen it doing oblation. And when he has to eat, he takes little piece of it, and the rest he brings out after eating. So that the concept of prasadam being cooked, specially offered, I grew up to know that. Not because it's in Krishna consciousness. It's just like it resonates in Krishna consciousness. It may not be the same thing, but it's a pattern that I got used to. Shaving of Sika. My grandfather shaved Sika on one side of his head. So I grew up to know that shaving, you can leave some tough. Not because I found it Hare Krishna. So I don't have challenges with that. But most of us can treat it like, oh, it's a foreign thing. And so we make choice whether to patronize or not to patronize. But people like us who, you see, when they say Obi Ebuenu means the way you say Mahaprasada. People run from very far distance where they are playing to come back to the residence of the Obi to take small portion of that leftover, like communion. And the same thing we do to Prasad. So that's why I asked the question, if we bring it to the African level, will we all be bold or confident to patronize it? So
Yeah,
that is the level. Come again, Prabhu. Somebody made a comment.
Yeah, I mean, if Prema Samputa made bold and say I will go, it's because from the area he comes from, people, I mean, this part of the upper Volta, which I'm part of, I mean, airway people, they also live more or less like that. So it depends on what region you come from.
Yes.
So when he said I would do it, I understand immediately. I know where he's coming from.
Prabhu, my senior father, I saw something. Which you know, it connected to our Tulasi Devi and Mother Tosi. I noticed here in the West, especially in the Eastern Europe, the Balkans, they have some strange culture that during the summer, when they finish all their ritual, they need to touch the body of an African. It was so interesting. I don't understand. Someone did that to me. I was so furious. Hey, is it racism or what? That's why I hardly see that over here. And one old lady came to me because she saw how I was really angry. She said, please, my son, don't worry. We have a shrine, an African deity that we worship. We don't do it publicly. You know, lose our identity. So after all this ritual, it is mandatory that you know, you just rub your body on an African person's body who is ever passing to make that ritual, you know, complete.
Wow.
And see, of course, you know, our tradition is the worship of herbs, you know, Mother Nature, you know, everything. That don't try it that way. I love my
Thank you very much for sharing that experience, Prema Samputa. It is interesting, actually, culture and all of these topics we're discussing. And then when we're discussing, one thing that also was coming to my head is that also we could say that is the level of looking beyond the geographical demarcation and bodily demarcation, that it could also be resonate as a part of level of consciousness race, because just like Sriman Varapacharya Prabhu said that he could understand why Prema Samputa said, I will go.
I will go.
I will go. So in the same way, we could say that the people of India that are trooping, that naturally, whether Hindu, Christian, Muslim, will go to Jamastami, is also as a result of, because they did not take birth there as an accident. It's a kind of a level of punya karma that has put them in that particular environment. So we could also say that the acceptance of whether in pure devotional service, whether in sentimental, emotional attachment or whatever, it also could be linked to the level of consciousness that the living entities who are born in a particular environment are born with.
Thank you very much. Sriman Vara Prabhu, I appreciate your contribution always. Thank you for that insightful input. Emeritus Sade, you are same always. You never change. Thank you too for the spice you add to it all.
Thank you.
I thank everyone present.
Yeah, in the absence of any other questions, we'll request all of the devotees to please on this note, let us appreciate our revered speaker, His Grace, Ganga Prasad Prabhu, by loudly chanting a Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for his wonderful share.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo.
Namo.
Anantapati
Ganga
Vaishnava
Prasad
Vrinde ki
Prabhu ki
jai.
jai.
Prabhupada
Ganga Prasad
ki
Prabhu ki
jai.
jai. Go Kriminande. Our glorious
Hare
ancestral
Hare
devotees.
Thank you
Thank
very
you all
much.
for being here for today.